Each member within this collaborative group will have the opportunity to leverage your talent and influence, a true network effect. If you are looking to collaborate on more projects, welcome to the Giver Marketing Network, the most trusted and highest rated collective of specialists on the planet. Here we have a group of like-minded professionals who focus on making valuable introductions and helping each other grow by teaming up. Imagine Upwork meets a network and a coach. The talent collectively includes services like visibility and SEO, creating logos, designing websites, managing social media, outreach messaging, visual storytelling, and much more. Think of what you could do with laser-focused allies strengthening your business while offering your talent to the entire network. Click near this video for more information.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Tuesday Marketing Masterclass. For those who are a part of Giver Marketing Network, Kingdom Warriors, many other channels are asking us to come on and share some tips and tricks, and not tricks, but some best practices around marketing. Joel Snyder is with us today from Coax Consulting, and he's going to be helping us understand a little bit more about visibility. Joel and I have worked together on many projects. We've become good friends and able to kind of help you get found, be more visible, be able to have your perfect client and prospects find you in your business or even in your nonprofit. Be able to be found is a key. We don't want you to be the best kept secret, right, Joel? That's not what we want to see out there, especially for causes and companies doing good in the world, right?
Yeah, really important. And we appreciate being here today and that everyone has joined us, and welcome. And it's really exciting to have this conversation because I wanted to dig in to a little bit of a deeper perspective on visibility.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all know what we have telephones and street addresses and some of the basics, but what I really wanted to kind of stress today is since we're in a marketing masterclass kind of format, is to just kind of dig deeper into what getting found is and the different ways of doing that.
Let's talk visibility, my friend. So we talk about inbound and outbound marketing oftentimes, and you and I had prepared a little bit of, to have this conversation. What's the difference between inbound and outbound marketing, and why are highway signs green? I love it.
Right. So when you think about your visibility,
Mm-hmm.
one of those areas that's driving traffic is your content, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when we think about inbound versus outbound, if you put it in terms of a call center, for example, when customers are calling into you, that's an inbound inquiry,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when you're actively prospecting, that's an outbound action, right? So when we're looking at inbound versus outbound, it's largely determined on the action or the message, right?
Got it.
We
So
want to use
either
the
you're dialing out or they're dialing in. So it's inbound versus outbound. I got you. You can use the old telephone example. That's a good one. Love it.
Yeah. So why are highway signs green? Well, it's an interesting study, actually. One of the major universities, Princeton University, I think it was, went through and determined how drivers are seeing signs while they're actively driving, right? So colors of signs are important. And I use this question because the question is, are signs inbound or outbound? So if you're around, you want to put it in the chat. What do you think signs are? Are they inbound or outbound?
Oh,
And
you mean
in
like
this,
the street signs, like the signs we see on the highway?
signs you see on the highway, but also the sign of your business, right?
Mm,
Is the sign on the side of the building an inbound or an outbound strategy for driving traffic?
got it.
Right? So in this case, this is a message, right? So
Yep.
why are highway signs green? It's an interest-bearing message. So that becomes inbound, right? But the fact that it's a sign makes it outbound? So it's kind of a trick question. So as we're looking at this, you look at some of this text here. And again, I don't want to read this to everybody, but I do want to put up a couple of boring text slides so that you guys can screenshot some of these notes. But and there's about 2 really very uninteresting slides in here with tons of great clues. But it wouldn't be a good marketing presentation if we didn't actually give you an acronym. So the 5 principles of inbound marketing, right, to draw people into your business, is to standardize, contextualize, optimize, personalize, and empathize. So, Tim, you're a real connector. How do you feel messaging is important in that context?
Yeah, I wonder if messaging is oftentimes just thrown up there, and we don't think through like that last one, the empathize part, and kind of get into the relational and emotional intelligence of our messaging. So as we become like a magnet and start drawing that inbound attention, like as we send out messages, then we're actually putting out into the universe, into the world, into hopefully to our target market, some kind of magnetic pull, either relationally or something's interesting, and so I think those are some keys that you have there.
Yeah, and absolutely. And when we're talking about this strategic approach, right, where you're creating valuable content, and then you'll see I've got highlighted there, your customers are your customers because you provide solutions to their problems, right? And at Giver Marketing, we're very anti-spam, right? So you're going to see most of this content is inbound strategy or an inbound strategic approach.
So when you say inbound, that doesn't mean we don't ever put out a message or we don't do that, anything like that. It means it's more content driven. It's more value based as opposed to pitchy, correct?
Exactly. And so on the slide here, we see someone actually working on a content map. But some of the fundamentals you may not consider is maybe how you create a landing page versus a website, right? So the concept being we're getting further and further away nowadays from having a digital brochure, right? So a website in the old days, 5 years ago, was a digital brochure, right? But now we're talking about landing pages because when you're talking about Google, they want you to answer the question as quickly and the most directly as possible, right? Our engineers in the world are very linear. And so when we're talking about digital marketing or inbound marketing, it's the answer to a question, right? We have a problem that we're solving for them. So that problem is the consumer's question that they're asking you and you're answering it, right? So landing pages versus websites. Structured data, we're going to show you how the Google world has made it simpler for people to get those answers. And talking about social profiles versus an about us, what does that mean to you? I mean, when you think about a social profile versus an about us page, Tim, how does that strike you? What does that mean to you?
Well, to me, a social profile gives you like a social proof. You have some information about you, maybe even on a personal level. The about us is really more factual. It's not as emotional to me. That's how I think of it, but it just depends on kind of where you're going with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So social profile is personal and interpersonal communications, right? Because we're sharing, right? Where about us, like you said, is more factual, straight information about me. And as a consumer or as a buyer, people like to connect with people. So again, thinking about some of these inbound fundamentals, social profiles start to play a bigger role. Also being available in voice search. This is an inbound, right? Find me a pizza restaurant near me, open now, right? That's an inbound inquiry. So a voice search is an inbound strategy. So when you're thinking about getting found, we also want to set up our data and our presence and our websites to answer the voice search type of logic.
Got it. So you're thinking about it as an engineer, but you're also thinking about it just pragmatically, like as you're going about everyday life. What do I actually do when I'm searching for something? Is it typing it this way or is it typing it this way? Is it voice? What language am I using? Through voice, through text, through, and in the future might maybe even other ways. But as of right now, we're thinking, okay, what are people typing? What are people saying into their mobile devices?
Exactly. And then, creating articles, things that can't be found easily in search.
Hmm.
So, when you write an article, you have some level of intellect about the subject that you're writing about that's generally deeper because you're in it every day, right?
Hmm.
So you write that article, you're providing a piece of intelligence that may not be easily found in search. Now, that doesn't mean we can't have some general articles out there, and we can talk about SEO and keywords and all of that, at
Hmm.
another time. But bottom line is, if you're putting out content that is meaningful and valuable to the reader, it should be something that dives a little bit deeper than what you might find in a general search. This is a typical schema markup. So when you do a Google search, you'll see information laid out this way if that person has taken the time to structure their data so that when somebody is searching, it shows up in a logical format. So you'll see that Google tells you, okay, there's been 25 million results in half a second that is now showing up on this Google search for giver marketing. And because the data is structured, you see things, here's Tim Morgan, here's about our team, our network, and so on. Well, other forms of schema markup include people, things about people, events, right? These products layouts that are on the screens when you do searches on in Amazon and on Google searches on products, right? Maps, right? Google Maps is a schema markup. And what's kind of fun to play with are what's called structured snippets. And if you look at this little section underneath the box, it says people also ask. Well, this is a very interesting thing because you can't actively promote a structured snippet in the people also ask section. But if you answer the question better than someone else in a more recent post, chances are Google's going to pick it up and put it there. And that's free advertising and a very prime piece of real estate.
So what I'm hearing you say is post valuable content and you eventually become the winner.
Exactly.
Huh.
Exactly. So as you're setting up your data to get found, think about how people want to view your information. And then you can create these structured data points so that it shows up. So here's some content marketing secrets. And I thought it'd be fun to talk a little bit about some of this because content is really what we're talking about, right? When we're talking about a good inbound marketing strategy, it's about your content being found, right? So it's more about answering the question. It's more about providing a solution. It's more about getting value than it is about sell. Now, and I'll say this more than once in this presentation. Yes, sales is the ultimate objective, right? That's what keeps our businesses going. But how do we get them to that point of conversion? And this is interesting because when you look at this magazine, this is America's biggest consumer magazine.
Interesting.
Amazing, right? So in addition, 37 million of their readers have read 3 of the last 4 issues. That's a loyal audience, right?
Wow. Okay.
So what have they done to generate that type of engagement? Well, the very first line, they've listened to their readers, people who've reached out to them in emails and letters and going out to them in terms of social media and interacting with them in different ways has allowed them to create some amazing content that their readers value. Another way of doing it is through artistry or from humor. On the left, you'll see the Old Spice guy, right? This is the man your man could smell like. Right. So you think of it, it's a humor thing. So now who's the buyer? It's not the man, right? But at the same time, as a male, you don't want to smell bad, right?
Yeah, you got a double positive there. I like it.
So by them, this old brand, 100+ year old brand, now reinvented itself with humor to become market leader with
Yep.
great content, right?
Yep.
And again, they've never say in their ad their brand until the very, very end. So interesting, right? And then you take a an iconic brand like Rolex, and for them, the emotional connection is luxury, right? So for them, their content is more about photography, right? Artistry, things like that. So again, some of these things we may not consider when we're talking about content marketing. We all hear, all the gurus say, well, you got to post a video, you got to do this, you got to do that. Well, really, when we're thinking about the connection and how we're representing our brand, there's different ways to do that, different ways to deliver our content that creates a different kind of emotional connection and continues to build your audience.
Yeah, a lot of imagery, a lot of humor, a lot of just bringing your personality. It doesn't necessarily need to be humor. It needs to be you, authentically you. So you're going to wake up in the morning and go, what can I produce that's going to connect with my audience that naturally comes out of me? I like that. That's good.
Yeah, it's fun. And you can get a lot of this right from the people you're doing business with. Ask them, hey, how do you see me? If you were me, what would you say? Right? How did you come to interact with us? How was your experience with us? Based on your experience, how do you feel we could do better? Right?
Great question. We forget those questions because they can be a little bit kind of overlooked, or even in some cases kind of scary when things are really busy. You're just not sure what the answer is going to be. But hey, we should ask those questions. In fact, put in the comments some of the responses you've gotten from your clients recently that might be a clue for your content. Just put a phrase or two in the comments saying, hey, like for example, some of our recent customers have said, hey, we just want more of this, or we want more of this, or we really enjoyed this. Like, people love to have the 1-hour sessions with our coaches like Joel and Tim Solmonson and Stacy Stockford and Christine Dean. I could go, list goes on and on. Some of our great coaches within our network. And there are coaches within every group. There's always the mentors, the big brothers and sisters, kind of the mature folks in the room that are trying to help everybody else. So we've been hearing a lot of that. Like, we want more of that. So there's some good feedback that can come. I like that clue there, Joel. That's really good.
Yeah, and it's funny when you're thinking about, and some of you that may be new as a solopreneur or so on, when you think about your life experience, there's something that caused you to step out to be this coach or to provide a service, right? And a lot of times I say, look, if you're interested in going into business for yourself, go to work for someone who is a stalwart in that business.
Great advice. Great advice.
Get inside, take a look around, and find that need that's not being served.
And out of that is going to come your content, because it's like something you're passionate about, something you're excited, you have knowledge about. Don't hide that knowledge. Like, get it out somehow. It doesn't matter really if it's just video or if it's written or imagery. Use it all. Like, just get it out.
No, absolutely. Yeah, because again, we're talking about inbound versus outbound, but when we're generating all of our content, what we're really doing is we're generating a path to a conversation.
That's good.
Right?
That's good.
And so here's two New York, very high level publishing media companies who have defined content marketing. So again, a boring slide, but something worth taking a screenshot of so that you can kind of put that into your mental mix on how you want to display your information or talk about your information.
No, when content is good, it ain't boring. This is just because it's text, it ain't boring. grab a screenshot of that and remember some of the principles built into this. These are the bullet points. Some people get so excited about bullet points, man. Let's give it to them. What do we got?
Yeah. So again, high quality, relevant content, right? So we want to look at that, and not just producing content for content's sake. Like Tim said, get your passion out there, really talk about it, show it in lots of different ways. So its true potential lies in your ability to provide a conversation path for your leads to follow. And they're going to do it in their own time and on their own schedule. And, we talk about this all the time. I got to force people to buy from me, right? It's not, and I don't mean that in a one-on-one situation, but in a market situation, right? I'm going to market because I have to drive sales. Well, you can't force anyone to do business with you, right? So you have to give them something that draws them into this conversation.
So if they're hungry, we have something worth eating. If they're thirsty, we have something worth drinking. If they're already wanting something, or at least aware to some degree that they need it, then we need to offer that solution, especially if we're passionate about that industry or service or product or whatever it is we put together. We put our blood, sweat, and tears into this. We might as well get it out there in a classy way and produce some good content, is what I'm hearing. Hey, Joel, I've heard some people have really good success around using tools like Answer the Public.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody's used that tool, put it in the comments, answerthepublic.com. Go check it out. Or if you have already used it, I know Tim Solmonson, Stacy Stockford, some of the others on the team, put it in the comments so people can go check that out, because that is a great tool. A lot of people, Joel, are like, I get stuck. I don't know what to answer. I don't know. Like, I love my product and service, and I'm confident in what I do, but I don't know how to get my brain moving in the content mode. Like, what do I produce so that it's magnetic and it pulls people into that kind of these conversations, as opposed to being pitchy, like, hey, buy my stuff today. Like, okay, you haven't posted for like 3 weeks, but you're asking me to buy your stuff just because it's the holidays. Not a good idea. Like, let's get some content out there and build this rapport with our audience. But how do we do that when sometimes our brain just gets foggy? We're just not sure what to talk about.
Yeah, and that's a great resource, because they'll give you we talked about in marketing, we try all these shiny objects, but really gets back to the 5 W's that we learned growing up, right? So if we can say how to, what is, when should, right?
Yep.
So things like that, those are the great lead-ins that will spur your ideas. And quite frankly, 250 million search results in half a second. It's not going to be long to find out what people are.
Yeah, good point.
Right, what they're looking for. And so Google it, right? I mean, heck, take a look, do one of those Google News alerts. Google alerts are a lot of fun because you can put in a specific subject and get notified every time someone's publishing content on that.
Yep. So
just watch what's current. Google Trends, is another tool you can use to see how subjects are trending. Any SEO tool will also give you some suggestions. Uber Suggest is another tool that you can use. Neil Patel is an amazing guy in the marketing world and has created this amazing tool where he can actually show you subjects and keywords and things and what their volumes are and so on. So, the keyword planners, both in Google and Bing, all of these are clues as to what people are looking for.
So you can reverse engineer your content, match it up with your passion, and basically have that special alignment with your audience that says they're already looking for this. So I might as well produce some content based on my knowledge, my expertise, or my passion, and put it out there and see how people digest it, see if people order it, see if people see it, view it, share it. And speaking of sharing, what about sharing third-party content? Is that still considered valuable in your mind, Joel?
Yeah, I mean there's the link, the link juice, right, that you get in SEO
Mhm.
by sharing third-party content. And again, that also brings attention to your profile. We go back to a social profile and getting people to say, hey, who is this guy?
Mhm.
Or who is this gal? Let's see
Mhm.
what her background is. But I think one of the things, and they actually mention this in this final bullet, is that marketers often overlook ready available source of content that they've used before, right?
Oh, come on. That's
Was
good.
used
Yeah.
years earlier, right? But still has potential to draw in new customers. So, I always say that you can always reuse content because there's always new eyeballs going out.
That's what
And
we want, right? We want more attention and eyeballs from the right people.
so when you track everything, one of my slogans is no cold traffic, dead ends.
Mm.
So if you're tracking everything that you're putting out, you'll see what the engagement levels are, the receptivity, how the algorithm viewed it, and did it share organically, right? And then, of course, there's always paid advertising. Now, is paid advertising inbound or outbound?
Ah, the tricky question of the day. Some of this has a little bit of overlap where it feels like it's bang bang, like both and. Like, tell me how would you explain that, Joel?
Yeah. So if you think about marketing to a group,
Hmm.
right, you might place a message in an outbound way to a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group or someone, and provide some value-based content that now you're generating this path to a conversation.
Yeah, good point. So it's a bit of a bang bang, an AB, like a both and. Like it starts as a light outbound. You're not pushing like you got to buy this right now. It's more like, hey, check out my content, and it's more of a light outbound that produces a massive inbound. I like that.
Yeah. So what are you buying with paid advertising? You're not buying transactions, you're buying an audience to talk to.
Come on, I like
So,
it.
so
Yep.
your message now becomes either an inbound generating traffic message
Hmm.
or an outbound selling message.
Got it. So that's a good way to think about it. Outbound can be considered a little bit more direct. Maybe it's one step removed from a sale, or it's an actual ask for a sale. Sometimes, especially lower ticket items, can use outbound strategies very effectively because there can be a quick sale because it's a low ticket item.
Mhm.
But for the higher ticket items, if I'm understanding this right, Joel, you probably want to have more of a conversational approach. There are going to be moments where you're asking for the sale, but it's going to be a little bit later down the road because trust needs to be at like a 7, 8, or a 9 for higher ticket items. Whereas lower ticket items, like around the holidays, you're just buying something for a present. You don't need to talk to a person necessarily and have 3 conversations before you buy a $27 item. You just need to decide if you like what it looks like and you're fairly sure that it's going to show up on time. Like, boom, you buy it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so the marketer of that product is going to structure their data to answer the way people are searching.
Got it. That's good. Love it.
So I mean that's really a tall kind of stack of items, and you want to get down into it. There's discovery calls that you can make with any of the professionals in the giver marketing group to really hone the messaging and pull all of these tools together. We've got experts in each area of marketing within the network. So if you want to really dig into Facebook ads, we've got a pro for that. You really want to dig into Google PPC, we've got a pro for that. You need consultation on a marketing strategy, you book with Tim. There's lots of great resources within the network. But I kind of want to uh, kind of just drop a hint for people. And if you want to ask some questions, put them in the chat. We'll answer them for you. Is how are you positioning your company versus your competition? Now, is that an inbound strategy or an outbound strategy? right? How are you going to format your content to differentiate you from your competition? So it's one thing to talk about you, how great you are, what your business problems you solve, but now how are you going to position yourself? Now, is that an inbound or an outbound marketing strategy? How would you
Gosh,
ask?
if
Tim?
people aren't sure what it is, hey, just give your best guess in the comments. Let's have a conversation. We're going to bring in some of our green room experts and have a conversation. But I don't want to overlook this. You have the ability to give a free consultation yourself. If you go to freeideasession.com, that right there, my friends, it's probably your golden ticket to some deeper knowledge. So freeideasession.com, that'll get you in touch with Joel, and he's put this together just to give us kind of an appetizer, an overview of what we need to be found online and how to have a conversation about our content so that we can be found, and not just being found, but be found by the right people for the right reasons at the right time, and their attention, especially during busy seasons. We become kind of the top of the pile of attention, and so people start noticing, man, your name keeps coming up, your company keeps coming up. We need to have a conversation. So I love that. I love that. So I think we have a little bit of noise in the background. Tim might have a little bit of noise, or Stacy might have a little bit of noise. Somebody does. So if we can go ahead and mute that for just, yeah, that was Tim. So if you want to use a different microphone, Tim, we can kind of jump into a conversation with you. But for now, what I'm going to do is just fire away at Joel and put him on the hot seat and ask him some more questions. We're going to have some fun. So yeah, put some of your own questions in the comments as well, because anybody in business, they want to be found, they need more attention, they want to be classy about it, they don't want to be spammy about it, but we're proud of what we're doing. So there is a point at which you want a conversion. Let's talk about the word conversion just for a second, Joel. So there's marketing conversion and there's sales conversion. There's like not just one conversion, there's like sometimes 5, 10, 15, 20 conversions. And you're like, well, I'm a person of faith, I only had one conversion. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about micro conversions. We're talking about little steps along the way. Some people call them breadcrumbs, some people call them different things. But can we have this conversation about when you, like, we're in the marketing space, there's a bunch of people watching, thousands of people are watching, we're in the marketing space, people might not understand like about conversions. Can we talk about that when it comes to being found and then what happens next and kind of that process? Whether you have a funnel account or a killer website or some landing pages all over the place, which, by the way, I love what you said about websites kind of having this overview of what you do and kind of interactive, but those squeeze pages or those landing pages or those lead pages are very powerful if you can get into that, because it allows the algorithms to pick you up even in different ways. So very powerful. But let's talk about conversions. What's a conversion, and can we talk about that just for a minute?
Yeah, I think what's something that everyone needs to remember is that the buyer's journey is not a straight line. And so they don't start at one endpoint of your business's visibility and progress to the other endpoint. They'll come into the buyer's journey at many different points. And so when you're structuring your content to be found, you want to think about all the different ways that people will engage with you, right? So like Timothy mentioned, holiday time, people just buy. Other times they're looking for themselves and they want more trust with a vendor, or they want more knowledge about a subject, right? So they're going to enter that buyer's journey at all these different points. Each one of those should be tracked and becomes a conversion point, right?
So each one of those are a conversion point. It's not one major conversion. It's like small steps toward an awesome experience, and it just all kind of builds on itself. Okay, I gotcha. And I like the buyer's journey language that Laurel is talking about here in the comments. And it's not always a straight line. It's not always perfect. It's not always like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We're done. It's like sometimes it goes A, B, C, back to jump over to G, then back, and then jump over again and share with a friend. And like all of a sudden there's all these different data points flying all over the place. I love that. That's really good. Okay. All right. Good.
Right.
Tim,
And when you mention, I'm sorry, when you mention landing pages, just one last thought, you may want to test and see where people are interacting with that page. Are they going through the whole page? There's a great program called Hotjar, and there's some others out there, right, that can give you some analytics on how people are interacting with your pages. And should you put a contact form at the top of the page? Should you wait and put it at the bottom of the page? Does the phone number need to ride along as you scroll? What's a parallax page? I mean, there's lots of different forms of landing pages and how people interact with them. Should the go buy now button, scroll down the page as you scroll, right? So do we use tabs or do we use scrolls, right? Are you optimized for mobile, right? So all of these things become touch points that we then want to track, because in the end, if you're not getting the sale, this will tell you where the break is in the pipeline, right?
Yeah, I've always wondered, there's some websites and landing pages and social profiles that tend to generate more booked appointments, more micro conversions where it's either triggering an email or an inquiry or a sale of some kind or a next step. And I always try to pay attention to the data points. Like, why is that working more than this one's working? It looks very similar, but the calls to action, the next step buttons are different, and they're in different places or different colors. And you mentioned Hotjar, and basically what that means is you can track where people are hovering and clicking on your websites, on your pages. And some people call it a heat map because you can kind of see the heat. That's where the hot spots are on your pages and things like that. But if you look up Hotjar or heat map or both, you'll probably come across some really good tools. Talk to Joel. He'll give you some. He gets all nerdy about this stuff, man. He wants you to have that. Those inbound inquiries are like gold. Like when you're found by an audience, it's a privilege to serve them. Like it, and we talk about inbound and outbound marketing. Some people are asking to clarify just a little bit more about inbound marketing. Let's go back to that phone call analogy, Joel, because I think it's the most simple, and most everybody's going to understand that, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what experience you have. If you have a phone, you've probably experienced this. So Joel, go ahead and explain inbound and outbound using the phone analogy.
Yeah, so think about your business as a call center. So if someone is calling in to have a question answered about your service, that's an inbound call, right? If you have a telemarketing department and you're reaching out to people who've never heard about you before, or maybe have interacted with you in some way but didn't buy, and now you're sending out a message, buy from me now, that's an outbound strategy. So when we look at our content, the content is the inbound gasoline, or the fuel, as it were.
It's like a magnet.
Create those paths of conversation.
Yeah, it's like an attention getter or a magnet to your expertise or your product or service. I love that analogy. I'm going to use it more often, even though it's kind of not everybody uses the telephone concepts as much anymore. I was just on a multi-million-dollar national company in the United States. They're like, yeah, we just have people make phone calls outbound. We set up the appointments, and that creates kind of this inbound conversational piece that starts developing. And then we close our national accounts that way. I'm like, sweet. Like you kind of use a 1-2, and it usually is this kind of holistic approach. It's not usually just one thing, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about a lot of inbound like strategies today with content and how people are finding you and making sure your search engine optimized and using all these, we're trying to explain all these fancy terms, but at the end of the day, you want the right eyeballs on your stuff. That's it. Like, that's what you want from an inbound strategy. You can pay for that attention, or you can get it organically, or you can ask some friends for it, or however you want to do it. Like, that's technically organic. But bottom line is you want people's eyeballs and ears on your stuff. Like, that's it. Like, that's how, because people do business with people. They don't just do business with a logo or with the tchotchke in the corner of a screen. Like that's pretty rare. And if that does happen, it's usually short-lived. So long-term, people do business with people and brands that are holistic, that are constantly in front of them, bringing good content, bringing value. Before you know it, you're giving everybody like this digital hug. And then they want to come meet you and fly over and do business with you and go to the trade show with you and go find ways to do business together in person, online, all different ways. And so I just get really excited. I remember meeting Joel in person for the first time. I'm like, finally, I get to meet the man behind the magic. Like, this is it. Like, I'm so excited. So like, there's a next level. Those eyeballs and those ears need to experience you at at least familiarity that builds that trust, right? And Joel and Tim, we always talk about, and Tim, I know you're having, you have some questions in the chat box there, but I know that trust is the key to marketing. Confidence is the key to sales. Trust is the key to marketing. You build the trust first, then you have the confidence to ask for the sale. I'm not a sales trainer, but that's like business 101. Like, build the trust, ask for the sale, but when you're confident there's a good match. When you can help somebody, do not hide that. Like, ask them if you could help them. And that's what's the privilege of marketing, is getting to that point where you have the opportunity to go ahead and just match it up. Hey, your problem, I got the solution. I'm glad we've been talking, because it's time to go. Let's move. Let's help you. And let's invest in each other. And there's always a mutual benefit. Every sale should have a mutual benefit, or it will be refunded. like there has to be a mutual benefit. So there's got to be this trust kind of building into that. So anyway, Joel, thank you for bringing some of the tips. You got a couple of last comments, and then I know Tim Solmonson might have a question in the chat box here, and we have a private chat box here. So
yeah, so I mean, just to bring it back to real world, a Google search is an inbound action.
Right. When somebody's typing in like marketing consultant, Coax Consulting, or even if they don't know your name, like marketing consultant around inbound or whatever, and Joel Snyder, or they just type in your first name, even, they're going to try to find you somehow, right?
Right. So that's an inbound action, right? So you want your data structured to answer that Google search in whatever way people are searching for you. Yeah.
That's why the
So I'd love to hear
keywords
from-
and all those things are so important, right? Because when people are doing those actions, you don't want to be missed.
Mhm.
Got it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from Tim. He's so connected on intimate level with content. I'd love to hear from you, Tim, on some of the successes that maybe you've had with that strategy.
Yeah, well, I just went through a course. I want to do a little shout out for Jennifer Elia. She does a course at LinkedIn. Basically, she's the LinkedIn expert and guide, and she talks about the importance of creating a hook at the onset. So that's the thing that stimulates the conversation, that gets people to stop the scroll. I think that's what you call it, stopping the scroll, because we all know what that looks like. You're just kind of ripping through who posted what and what they're doing, and then all of a sudden something gets your attention. So once you have that hook, the main objective is to move them. You don't want to just have these conversations. You want to move them to your sales funnel. You want to move them off of LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever you are, to, like we're talking about, have a more intimate relationship, have a one-on-one conversation, see if you connect, and your values line up, and those kind of things. So I thought that was super helpful for me, because I think we get caught up in the dialogue, hey, oh wow, someone commented on my post, and and you kind of forget that at least I did, that the objective is to have a deeper conversation and kind of bring them into our environment, where you can show them, hey, listen, I've got more value to create for you, or to offer you, and maybe we can help each other, and that's something that we oftentimes forget, is we're just maybe trying to build followers or want more interaction, but ultimately we want clients, and we want to build these relationships, and you can't really build a relationship if you just stick, on the same platform all the time.
Yeah, what's the honey? Like, what's gonna attract? What's can somebody imagine happening if they engage with you from the very beginning? That's a really good point, Tim. And I know, Joel, you probably have some thoughts on that too. I would also add that there's one question that a marketing professional or a business owner should always ask, and that's from the perspective of the audience. Okay, the audience is asking one question, and some people use it as like an acrostic or an acronym with them. And if you've heard of this, just think it through. Like when you're out shopping, or when you're out looking for something to solve a problem you have, you're asking one question: what's in it for me? How can this What's in it for me? That's the one question a good business professional or marketing professional should consider from the perspective of their audience. What is in it for them? What are they going to get if help them solve their problem? What's going to I mean, it could be as simple as that deodorant commercial. Like, what's in it for me if I'm going to buy Old Spice? I'm going to feel good, man. I'm going to smell right. I'm going to feel good. And my lady's going to thank me. You know what I mean? Like, there's some basic stuff. Like, some of this isn't rocket science. Like, answer that question or lead the conversation in that direction, whether it's with honey, with a nice, like, honey drip, or if it's like some big hook that you're just like, no, you got to talk to me right now. The holidays are coming up. Like, you need to buy this for your lady, or buy this for your friend, or give this as a gift, or do whatever it is. Like, that's the one question. What's in it for me? We're all asking it, and it's not selfish. It's just a stewardship question. Is this worth my time and money? What's in it for me? Am I going to get something that's valuable enough to exchange my time and money for this?
Yes, and I would also reiterate that it's not one answer. It's several answers based on what point of this buyer's journey they're entering into your conversation.
Okay. So kind of layered, you mean?
Well, it's several different answers, because is it a lower price? Is it a higher value? Is there some intrinsic connection with a charity? Is there ego involved? There's certain cultures around the world that shop and use the discount as a way to establish value. And there's other cultures around the world that want to pay the most for that product than anybody else. So what's in it for them, right? So the luxury factor, the fact that they feel affluent, right? There's those things. So you have to answer that question in a lot of different ways based on how people are interacting with you.
Got it.
And that's why I say no cold traffic dead ends. When you buy ads, you're buying an audience, not a sale. And you want to answer the question in the way they're asked, in the way the audience wants to hear the answer. So
let's talk
really
about a couple of touch points, gentlemen. And I know, Stacy, you're in the background kind of doing some of the technical stuff right now, but let's talk about some of the touch points. Like, you talked about the fact that it's not always just answering one question, but in gaining the attention of an audience with your inbound and your visibility activity and your content creation, is that a smoking gun, or is there like other, like, follow up? You talk a lot of times, Joel, you're helping folks with their nurturing, like their follow up systems after the ad's been placed, or after the organic campaign's been put in place, or after the content's really hit a good rhythm. Now what? No dead ends. You talked about no dead ends. Like, what are some general rules of thumb around, like, how many times should we be in front of somebody before they start making decisions? Like, how quickly or how slowly should we move into these conversations? Let's just wrap up with some just practical boots on the ground. You get some conversations going. People are paying attention to your stuff. What do you do so that you can get closer to that sale? Like, how many touches should we consider having with certain audiences? How does that work?
So there's some good generalities out there, but essentially the more expensive the service or the more expensive the product, the longer the decision time is, the more research people will do. Nowadays, the phone call or the booking appointment is the last stage in the buyer's journey before the sale. Whereas in the old days, not too many years ago, it was the first step, right? How do I get more information about you was the path to the conversation through a phone call, right? Or a direct inquiry of some kind, right? So in terms of sequential follow-ups, it's going to be based on what adds value to that person's communication with you. So if you follow Tony Robbins' rule of keeping an email list, nobody gets taken off the email list until they unsubscribe themselves. So so there's lots of different kind of generalities, but the bottom line of it all is, are you presenting value where that person is in their buying journey? And that sequence happens based on how they've interacted. So if we were to take a sales funnel, for example, and they click on more information or they raise their hand in some way. And it's funny, I had an early mentor of mine in digital marketing said, if you want to know the most effective sales funnel, go to somebody's website and then leave. Go to the next stage in their sales funnel and then leave. Go to the shopping cart and then leave, right? And see what the follow-up messaging is from that company. So if you're not sure how to structure a follow-up sequence, go to the industry leader, go to the website, and then leave. Go to the next stage and then leave, right? Sign out. So that you're now in their follow-up sequence. We've had, I've had people where I've gone, requested information and left just to see what would happen. And I got a phone call.
Come on. All right. So there's all different ways depending on, but right. The point is there's not just one touch or one interaction. There's multiple touches. I'm seeing in the comments, 5 to 7 touches. I've heard people say anything from 7 to 11 touches. It just depends on what you count as a micro connection or interaction of some kind. Some people view an email as obviously a touch. Some people view just hovering on a website and clicking somewhere as kind of an interaction of some kind. So depending on how you define that, there's usually at least a half a dozen, if not more, interactions before you're even at that level 4, 5, or 6 in the trust level, so that you can even have a deeper conversation. Like in today's world, people are researching and searching competitors and going back and forth and saying, what's the best use of my time? Should I book an appointment with this person or this person? Should I click on this or click on this? And there's a lot of decisions made before you even know that they're hunting for you in many cases. And hopefully we can catch those data points, right? Working with you, Joel, and others.
We've done several campaigns for clients where we actually program lead scoring. And so you can definitely score those interactions to see how close they are to the buying decision. And then based on that lead score, you would then either provide a stronger message or a softer message, right? These people that are at the lower end of the score need more nurturing. People at the higher end of the score are closer to a buying decision.
Love this conversation.
So those are other ways to kind of balance your inbound and outbound marketing strategies.
Yeah, good. So what I'm hearing is there's a balance here. There's a both and. But today we've had the privilege to talk about mostly inbound activity that gets people's attention, that you are able to showcase your genius to the world, to the audience that you prefer, and then it brings you that positive attention so that you can have the privilege of taking that next step with them using your either automated tools or a combination of automation and kind of that manual, like paying attention, reaching out. I've had so many times when I'm on some of these social platforms and all I did was click a button and they're having a full on conversation with me. And I got to figure out if they're like a real person or not. But that's part of the buyer's journey. I got to see do I like this kind of style? Is this for me or is it not? Some people are like all manual, like I got to do this very custom, like white glove. Well, yeah, if they're selling, $10,000, $20,000 packages or whatever, they can afford to do that. But if you have smaller ticket items, maybe a little bit of automation on the front end screens out the tire kickers, and then you go into real deal conversations with people. But you never take them off your list, like Joel says. You just keep them kind of top of mind. Don't spam them. Just kind of send an email every once in a while, then send a little message over here, have somebody give a quick text message or a phone call or this. There's so many different ways nowadays. Like something that they've been putting on social, like interact with them in a meaningful way that's not disingenuous. It's just like, hey, I do want to stay connected with you, and be real about it. Even if you have a team doing it, be authentic about how you stay connected with your audience. I love all the tips that came through today. Tim Solmonson, do you have any last minute thoughts? Joel, thank you. And your scheduler, again, is, what's the website that you created, that redirect website?
Freeideasession.com will take you to the link that's now scrolling at the bottom of the screen.
Freeideasession.com. I love that. Great. Any last words?
I know that there's different approaches. Well, I was just sold on a program where this guy suggested you create a lot of value up front and pitch your biggest package, instead of having what we typically think of as an introduction that leads to a deeper commitment to the big package. And I just throw that out there because it this idea of this life-changing experience that is being pitched or proposed, and then saying, well, gosh, I can't afford the 10 grand. He goes, well, what can you afford? And then you start to move back from making a big, landing a big client, instead of trying to sort through all the little entry level contacts.
Yeah, I think that's where the power of having couple 3 different options available at least is probably smart. And there's some like psychology around all that, and there's some deeper like conversation for another day. But I love the fact that when an entrepreneur gets confident enough, they have a larger package, then that means all of a sudden they start selling a lot more of that middle level package for some reason. And all they did was they added the full enchilada, the kit and the caboodle at the top as their main package that they're excited about. That's new, it's fresh, like we haven't offered this before or whatever. And then now people are like, well, I can't afford that, but I want to do this one. And it's like, great, let's start there, like middle level package. That's why, like in some companies, 60, 70, 80% of their sales come in that middle level package because they got this outrageous one. They got kind of the starter one for people who maybe just want to slow play it, like kind of just get started, and like their time it's not as much of a premium as maybe their money. And so they start at a slower pace. So like, for example, many of the times when somebody will interact with one of our coaches or our marketing professionals, some people, they have time on their hands, but they don't have a ton of money. So they'll start at a slower pace. They'll meet like once a month with some of our professionals and get some things done. But if somebody's like, no, I got to go. I got a good product. I know what I'm doing. I got a good track record. I'm confident. I can sell. I'm confident in communicating what I'm offering to the world. Let's go. And they're like, let's meet every 2 days. Like, let's get this thing going. And at very minimum, let's meet every week and track our numbers, and let's get moving. So if you want to have any kind of interaction like that, ladies and gentlemen, reach out to Joel Snyder and Tim Solmonson, myself, Stacy Stockford, and we'll all direct you to the right people based on your needs. And I know that Joel did a really good job today, so let's honor him. Thank you, Joel. Really appreciate everything you brought today. Genius level, buddy. And I know you have a lot more there. You just wanted to make it palatable for everybody today. So God bless you guys. We'll see you next Tuesday, same time, same channel, wherever you're watching this, you're probably going to see it again on the same channel. And we like to stay pretty consistent with that when we can. And we're glad to be able to serve you. And this is our content to help you. And so if you need marketing help, this is the right place. We have 65 team members. We partner with other organizations that have thousands of people within their organization. So we're kind of connected with a bunch of sister companies, and and micro brands. And we just love networking so that you can get the best match possible. So glad to be able to connect with you that way. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks, Joel. Good job today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Woohoo.